Welcome back to the Motivating Force podcast. I'm Josue, an aspiring Marine Corps officer. I'm completing my bachelor's in criminal justice, and I'm currently finishing up my ROTC as well. This is Justin. He's going to be joining me as he always does. And he's an aspiring motivational leader who's always excited to talk about all of our wonderful topics with you guys. Today's topic, we're actually going to be learning from the past, but to strive for continual growth in our future. It's something that I've always talked about when people are talking to me about like jobs and careers. And I always tend to use the example of like, I don't want to fall back to like a lower paying job. I always want to continue to improve, and you don't want to go back to a $10 an hour job when you're currently making $12, right? You want to keep pushing that bracket up. But in this case, I'm talking about our generation, our civilization as a whole. Now we have a tie-in with technology as opposed to before all these different advancements that we hear in history and these ancient civilizations. I felt like it'll be an interesting conversation to have where we kind of like summarize some of those like civilizations, because you hear which is the more advanced, which was the most positive in the changes that they've made for culture, for society, for the human race in general, right? So to start off, we have Babylon, right? This is the one that started it all, right? The Sumerians and stuff. Babylon with major advances in building cities and written law. Are you familiar with any of that?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's always great to learn from past civilizations. It's always cool to see what great changes were made and what people did right. And especially to learn from why they're not around today, what made them fall.
Yeah, because you also have to remember, these are ancient civilizations. They weren't born with like iPhones in their hands. They weren't born with the PlayStations and the technology that we have now. These people were secluded to their own areas, geographically. We have places like ancient Egypt where it's in the middle of a desert. And they had major advances in math, science, art, agriculture, and philosophy. And to think that, places like Kissimmee, Florida, or like here in Orlando, like we aren't hitting that bracket the way that they have in advancements in technology. We have places like ancient Greece, major advances in science, art, and philosophy as well. We have all of those philosophical quotes and motivational philosophies in general that we're always talking about. Those people came from that ancient Greek era, and it's like I'm just trying to make the point that we have to keep building upon the stones that they're letting before us.
Oh yeah, I mean, in a way we do, right? We still study Greek philosophy to this day. I mean, it still has such a huge impact in our world today.
But that's what I'm saying. We're studying it. We're not improving upon it. Are we to say that what they've made is so perfect that we can't improve on it? Because what I'm trying to get to is, why aren't we now also on the list of the most advanced civilization or the most advanced era or generation?
Okay, yeah, I get where you're coming at now, yeah.
Other examples, ancient India, we have the number 0. Literally nothing. But that was something that they came up with as a civilization. And I mean, in mathematics, that goes a long way. We have philosophy again. We have religion. We have different religions coming out of different eras, different cultures, different places around the world. And it sparks in, cultures mixing together, and you get stories, you get history.
Yeah, because I know from India, like we get the Gita and everything, right?
What's the Gita? Like the guitar?
No. Some of those more ancient stories where we talk about how the Gita is kind of like with your fate already. What is it about? It's like the outcome for your destiny.
Oh, it's literally like your destiny. It's already predetermined for you, kind of thing.
Yeah, like all that came out through India, and it's about doing your duty towards your destiny, even if it has negative repercussions.
Okay,
was what that was about. Yeah.
Well, then that's also, it goes hand in hand with like Greek philosophies and how some of those are like, you make your own destiny.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see like these places were all so secluded and isolated to like geographic regions because they weren't connected with the internet, right? We have places like ancient China. This one's where it gets like really interesting because they're best known for a couple inventions. They had like the printing, invention of the compass, paper making, and gunpowder. But isn't that interesting, because we associate ancient China and ancient like Japan with samurais and swords, but they're the ones with the gunpowder because they came up with like the fireworks and all that and the explosives. But then further along in the advancements that they've made, and over time, of course, they made kites, toilet paper, which a lot of people have been buying last year, paper money. So before that, it was all cryptocurrency. No. But they were doing like, I'll trade you a chicken for something else, like the bartering system.
The barter system.
Yeah. So it's interesting that, again, China made paper money, and now it's become this universal currency, a form of currency that everybody's using.
Now China still makes all the money.
Now, and it's soon to be crypto. No, I'm just kidding. But that's a conversation for a later time. Earthquake detectors, and even crossbows. So they were like, nah, we're done with gunpowder. Let's move on. Crossbows.
So crossbow came after gunpowder?
That's what I read.
Okay. All right.
Well, gunpowder was used for fireworks and stuff.
Oh, well, yeah, obviously. The gun wasn't invented when
gunpowder was invented for the fireworks and, the explosions and stuff. It wasn't for the gun.
Right.
They invented the gunpowder, not the gun.
Right.
They invented the egg, not the chicken.
Got it.
But they were also very interested in like astrophysics and looking towards the sky and observing the solar eclipses and the comets. They also brought the timekeeping first, using a shadow clock, which was the forerunner to the sundial, and it appeared over 2,500 years ago in China.
Okay, interesting. I wonder if that came before even the water clocks, where they keep track of time overnight by using water jugs.
What do you mean by that? Oh, wasn't it like the moon or something affects the water? Or...
No. There was like a trickle of water, and they would measure that, and they used it to keep track of how long the night was.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, that was during like Jesus times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I only knew about the sundial, before the clock, and then learning about a shadow dial or a shadow clock, I was like, oh, that's interesting that was even before sundial. So maybe water was before that.
I don't know, man. See, I know a thing or two about what you got going on. All right.
Other examples of advancements that ancient civilizations have made, because I think it's just really interesting to learn a little bit about our past. Even if it's just little spurts at a time. Egypt, there was evidence that ancient Egyptians had knowledge of anatomy, and injuries they were healed with practical treatment. Like if you had an open wound, they would bandage it with raw meat. Now we're like, that's weird, but then you think of like the maggots and eating away the dead flesh and all that stuff. And the fact that places like that understood anatomy, whereas now half our generation or half our society doesn't, could care less to take anatomy 101.
Right.
And that was an entire civilization that didn't have things like the technology close to what we have.
Yeah.
But then you have people that say, they had help from the aliens or whatever. That's another topic again. I keep getting sidetracked.
Yeah, I mean, you can see where some of that stuff does tie in still, though, because like some treatments that they've been studying on with burn patients, they've been using fish skin or fish scales that they wrap around the burned area to avoid having to get skin grafts.
Because of like
whatever it is
properties
in the
it.
Fish scales, yeah, the exactly. It would just restore your skin almost back to what it was originally.
So it's almost like we're looking at our past finally to see how we can advance our medical field. Almost like there's a point to what I'm trying to say.
Almost, man, almost. Yeah.
But I mean, it's really cool too, because they even had surgeries that they would do, and they're known for like opium fields and stuff, but they would use it for medical purposes to treat like pain. They would have the surgeries and they would stitch people up even. Of course, there was things like you had the people that would make the mummies, and that also took precision because they had to take, like it was a giant process to mummify somebody.
Yeah, I mean, they were preserving humans better than we preserve humans today.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And I just think that that's a culture or a civilization that people should just look into more, because there is such like the field of knowledge that you can gain from ancient Egypt alone is so vast. It's super interesting as well, because then you also have like the rulers and the pharaohs and stuff, and that alone for like democracy and the way government was established back then.
I mean, that's crazy though. Don't you feel there's like do you think that has something to do with our little topics there that we have about like the anti-human qualities nowadays? And like, because all of our advancements now are so technology based that we get away from those human element advancements. And it's like, it almost seems like some of this stuff from the past is more effective than what we have in the future now.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, what I've come to the understanding in, my humble opinion, is that I feel like technology is just making it too easy for everybody now, because I had a rebuttal for myself where it was saying that, were all these advancements made because, you make diamonds with pressure? They struggled so much. They were so secluded and isolated. They needed to make ends meet for themselves. And the way that they did that was to come up with the best and brightest and come up with these inventions that changed the world. Now, the world's so tied together with technology that everything's just kind of, somebody else can do it. Or I can talk to somebody on the other side of the world instantly. So why do I need to make anything else? Why can't we also strive to make that list? Why can't we earn the title of also being included in the most advanced civilizations? There could be topics where people, there could be conversations where people say that we are, but wasn't this just given to us? We didn't really do this.
Yeah.
We have people like the Elon Musks. We have people like the Neil deGrasse Tysons. We have people like the Bill Gates. But should all the weight fall on their shoulders alone to really push our generation and our civilization to the next step?
Right.
Or should we take action and find the things within ourselves that we can implement for our culture or for our generation? Like, do we really want to be known as the generation that just stood around and make dancing videos in front of our phones?
Yeah, we're all on TikTok, and then they're like, well, what do you do good? And you're just like, well, Elon Musk did the good for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Like, we're just going to be known as the generation that was able to edit a video in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
What's so advanced in technology about that?
Right.
Why couldn't we, the printing mill, the space shuttle, all these different things, they were massive. The car, the automobile.
Yeah.
So it's to get people thinking on the greater good for humanity instead of being so selfish and what can I just do for me to feel happy? We're always talking about like the pursuit of success and the pursuit of being fulfilled and what does that mean to the individual? But also keeping in mind, like, if we don't learn from all these ancient civilizations and realize all that they've given us to be so comfortable right now, we're just going to fall back to those more primitive ways until we have to be under that pressure again to come up with something that great.
Makes sense to me. Yeah.
We got really pushed forward on that conversation right there because I kind of sped up where I was heading in this topic. But, to fall back on some more like fun facts about ancient civilizations and how do we skip over the ancient Mayans? They all disappeared, right? But they were also known to have a sophistication in the way that they grew agriculture.
I mean, maybe they all disappeared because they actually went to Mars. Maybe they beat Elon Musk.
Well, I mean, are we going back to conspiracies?
Or somebody took them to Mars.
There's the alien conspiracies with the Martians. I mean, with the Mayans. Martians. But yeah, like the way that they produced their agriculture, like the way that they had permanent raised fields, wild harvesting, forest gardens, and terracing supporting the population. And as of right now, we're finding like tunnels underneath these Mayan, like the pyramid things that they have. Not really pyramids, but they're like
Geysers,
steps,
Gyazas, something like that, right?
Something. Those
the altars where they sacrificed. people
with human hearts and
the fun stuff. Yeah.
But like to think that even advancements in agriculture we take for granted now because we have people that are doing that for us in mass quantities for the entire world. Like, I just want people to get out of that mindset of being so, I don't want to say lazy, but they're just taking things for granted instead of trying to progress the human race.
Yeah. I mean, I would consider it a lazy approach because, I mean, things were done back in the day to combat certain issues, especially when it came to like crops and harvesting and horticulture and all that. And today we're just like, just soak it all down with chemicals.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what it does to people later, you know? And then it's like, oh yeah, those are bad for you. Well, let's just use a different chemical. Where's the solution in that, you know?
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get away from. I'm not saying everybody should go, you know, make a garden in their backyard for the entire neighborhood, but, you know, find little things that you are interested in. Find things that, you know, can improve the wellness of your community. At least start somewhere. Start, like, you can do your family. If you want, like I had examples, if you want to start your own business, go for it. You want to serve your country and protect the humans that reside in your country, go for it. But if you want to just sit around, stare at your phone, collect welfare, and not contribute to society, then really take a second and evaluate your life, because what are you giving to us? Like, I'm not here asking for handouts, but if we, you know, as the two podcasters that we are, the two motivational speakers that we are, if we can contribute to the people listening to help better their life, for them to have that light bulb go off saying, oh, you know what, I need to take action in something and turn my life around, or, you know, look into these things that are hobbies right now, but I can turn and monetize and make a career out of it. If we can help, hey, we're doing it, right? That's the point I'm trying to make. But if somebody else has that same goal and they just haven't acted upon it, I'm telling you to act on it, you know?
Yeah.
Strive for better, strive for greatness.
Yeah. No, that's cool, because that makes sense, because I think about that, and it's like, you know, the guy that has like all the Egyptian tattoos and stuff, and you're like, oh, that's cool, like, you know, do you know what that is?
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, that's like the Eye of Horus, and it's just like, okay, cool. So do you know what that means?
Yeah.
And they're like, nah.
I just thought it looked cool.
It's cool. I don't know what it's called. And it's like, yeah, but then do you know anything about that culture or what they did or any of that stuff? Like, It's cool enough to get tattooed on you, but, you know, permanently mark your body for the rest of your life with this thing, and what you know about it.
Yeah.
You know?
And then there's the topics of like cultural appropriation, and like we're just using it because it looks cool, or for appearance or monetization or fame. But then you also have the people that look into their own cultures, which is good too. You know, it's always good to learn from your past. So like me being Hispanic, look into the Hispanic culture from places my parents came from, look into that, like the way that country or group of people in general just expanded to become the race that they are now.
Well, yeah, but the point I mean with that is, like, I'm getting what you're saying about like the light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, oh yeah, these are like cool things and cool topics and all that, and this is one of those things where it's like, it's that cool topic. So like somebody who has all those like Egyptian tattoos and stuff, and it's like, but they're not doing anything productive, or they're being lazy or something. Down here, like, oh, I didn't know ancient Egypt did that. Well, what else did they do? Oh, that's cool. I'm gonna look into that a little bit more. And then like they can actually get motivated and get out there and do something just because they have that little attraction to that culture.
Yeah. And to pull, I found a really cool, it is a Japanese term. It's called an ikigai, and it stands for the reason for being. So I kind of wanted to push that message and, you know, that term across as well. If that's all you want to take from this, is that cool and interesting term, you know, find that ikigai, find your reason for being, get after it with all that you have. And hopefully that's enough to motivate you to get your life in the right direction. And it ends up being a positive change for those around you, for that community, for your friends and family. You know, if this is our ikigai, helping out all those listening, helping out our family, helping out ourselves. And if you can find something that interests you enough for it to then be your ikigai, go for it.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I see where your affinity there for the Japanese culture goes, talking about the ikigai, which is awesome. And it's true, that is what we do here. And then, like I was saying with the Gita with India, and because for us, it's always about like the philosophy of things. And we do study those philosophies from multiple regions of the world. And there's always something, it's just different enough to really open up another perspective in your brain, right?
Yeah.
But they all still lead down the same path. And it's like that with all these different like cultural improvements or just societal improvements for humankind in general through all these different regions of the world and all these little different things they did that all come together and create something really good, really powerful. And now today, with the rise of technology, your neighbor isn't who's next door. Your neighbor is the world. So now you think about what you could learn and grow in a culture in an area this big, and now you have literally the whole world in the palm of your hands. What are we not doing right? You know?
It does seem easier now to make these improvements, right? It does seem like an easier task to come up with said advancements, even if it's to improve on, well, the whole point. It's improving on what's been made before us. So like before they had super like rudimentary ways of making their agriculture and stuff, and now we've got it to a point that we're mass producing it and improving on their agriculture processes to the extent that we're feeding countries in like just states, whole states dedicated to producing lettuce or different crops for an entire country. And it's like, it seems like now it's so much easier to do that, but are we doing it the healthiest way? Are we doing it the most, I don't want to say productive because it is the most productive, but it's not the most beneficial for the consumer.
Does he say the most human way?
Humane or human?
Human. Not humane. Human way. Yeah.
But that's why I also wanted to make the point. Like, I know we have, it's the disclaimer. This discussion, it's the disclaimer of, I do understand we have been to, we've been to space. We're trying to send things out to Mars. We're trying to land on Mars. We are in the process of making those advancements. But it's also such small groups of people doing that. I just wanted to turn that small group of people into, your everyday person. Whoever's just listening to this, or they get this message in their own head by themselves. It was their own thought. The whole point is, what harm is it doing if more people are trying to make these advancements?
Yeah. Well, I think if you want to be involved, you can get involved in anything.
Yeah.
Any type of advancement, any type of like hobby, field of interest, anything at all. Like if you have an interest in it, you can be a part of it one way or another, because that's what technology has helped with.
Yeah. Because the end goal is, if you're able to give back to society and feel fulfilled in that same sense, then I'm sure at the end of whatever time period, they will eventually look back at our generation, the way that our civilization's working right now as worldwide, instead of just segregated geographically in our own little, residences. Like the way ancient Egypt was only in ancient Egypt, obviously. Ancient China, only China. But now it's an entire world. I'm sure in the future they can look back at like ancient Earth instead of, if we make it to Mars, for example,
Right.
If we can colonize different planets, that's a drastic improvement. That's, instead of, like I just said, we can look at ancient Earth as another crucial point in history.
Yeah.
And we can earn that title of being, the most advanced civilization, or one of the most advanced civilizations. I just don't want us to keep falling back and not learning from the past.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. Because I think, if they look back at ancient Earth, I mean, that's a good perspective to take on it for sure. Especially if you're really out there for you thinking about what you're going to do, being famous is like such the big thing nowadays, but it's like they want just that small little window of it. And it's like you get out there and you really help society and you do these things, you make the improvements. Who's to say that you can't become the next Julius Caesar?
Yeah.
Where instead of being talked about the entire time you're alive, you're still talked about hundreds of years later by two of us sitting here in front of the camera. Yeah. And being taught in history classes, and like, everybody's learning your name because of the good that you can do for society.
Yeah. And the way that we talked about Zeno, like this guy literally lost everything and became a huge name in Stoic philosophy and Stoicism. And here we are thousands of years later talking about him in front of two microphones.
Yeah.
Something that he had no idea would even be a thing.
Yeah.
So with that same token, we can be the next Zeno. We can be the next Julius Caesar.
I mean, that's a great point, man. All these different cultures, everything like that. If any of those things interest people, and if that gives you any type of light bulb moments, definitely explore it, look into it, learn from your past, because it's already happened. It's already there. There's nothing really speculative about it. You can get out there and get after that information. And at the same time, with all those light bulb moments, you can always hit that little bell icon. Subscribe down below. Get those notifications of every time that a new video drops. Because they're going to be coming out Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 a.m. Sundays, we're going to be dropping videos as well, coming up here shortly. We're only trying to provide the most premium of content, so be sure to check all that out. You can find us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Parler at The Motivating Force. And until next time, go on and get